A 1940s Schaublin 102 lathe turned steel rods into watch components smoother than glass after 80 years of relentless operation. Modern mini-lathes, those $500 toys from overseas, developed chatter marks and spindle wobble within months, ruining precision parts. Why do these Swiss relics outperform today's so-called high-tech machines? In the shadow of the Great Depression and the gathering storm of World War II, Switzerland's watchmaking heartland faced a brutal reckoning. Neutral by geography but encircled by chaos, the Jura valleys hummed with factories churning out timepieces that powered global economies, from military chronometers to everyday luxuries. Demand exploded as Europe starved for reliable instruments. A single faulty gear could delay shipments, bankrupt families, or leave soldiers without synchronized watches in the field. Failure wasn't abstract. It meant unemployment for thousands in La Chaux-de-Fonds, where entire villages depended on export precision. Schaublin, founded in 1893 but peaking in the 1930s and 40s with their 70 and 102 models, answered the call. These lathes weren't luxuries, they were lifelines. One breakdown could halt production for days, costing fortunes when raw materials arrived by rationed trains through blockaded borders. Engineers at Schaublin knew the stakes: build machines that ran forever, or watch an industry crumble under wartime shortages and post-war rebuilding frenzy. The genius lay in the plain Bearing Headstock, a deceptively simple design that mocked the complexity of modern engineering. Forget the ball bearings dominating today's lathes. Those precision ground spheres, riddled with microscopic pits and deviations no matter how high grade, introduce rumble as they roll under load. Instead, Schaublin's spindle, a hefty cylinder of case-hardened steel weighing over 50 pounds, floated inside custom bronze bushings, separated by a razor-thin film of heavy oil, just thousandths of an inch thick. This hydrodynamic wedge formed under rotation. As the spindle spun at 3,000 RPM, centrifugal force and pressure sheared the oil into a self-sustaining cushion, averaging out any surface irregularities through laminar flow. Runout, that rotational error crippling precision, dropped to under 10 millionths of an inch, imperceptible even under microscope. Heat from friction. The oil absorbed it, expanding slightly to maintain the gap, while the massive thermal mass of steel and bronze dissipated it slowly, like a foundry anvil cooling after a pour. Inertia played its part too. The spindle's girth resisted vibration, damping harmonics that would chatter a lighter modern shaft. No electronics, no servos, just physics harnessed with tolerances held to 0.002 inches via lapping stones and meticulous hand-fitting. Workers assembled these headstocks in clean rooms, hydrostatically testing each under simulated loads, ensuring the oil film withstood 10 tons of radial pressure without brunelling or wear. This wasn't overbuilt, it was inevitable, a machine that turned a 1mm watch pinion rounder than any CNC today because it eliminated the noise at its source. Men like Henri Dubois, third-generation machinists in those dim Jura workshops, paid dearly for such perfection. Stooped over Schaublins for 12-hour shifts, they'd face the whine of 20-horsepower belts slapping against flywheels, hands inches from 1,000-degree chips flying like shrapnel. Amputations were routine, loose sleeves caught in chucks spinning at blur speed, severing fingers before the brake could engage. Heat exhaustion felled the strongest. Oil mists clogged lungs, breeding tuberculosis in unventilated sheds where temperatures hit 110 degrees Fahrenheit from bearing friction and swarf piles. The bends came from compressed air tools clearing chips, nitrogen bubbles ravaging joints after long dives into tight tolerances. Yet they persisted, calluses thick as leather, eyes strained to ruin from micrometer squints under 40-watt bulbs. Safety, a chain guard and a prayer. One slip on oil-slick floors, and the carriage's 500-pound mass crushed legs like twigs. Union whispers existed, but war quotas silenced them. Produce or starve. These lathes demanded warriors, not operators, forging precision from sweat and sinew. Decades later, a Schaublin 102 rescued from a 1980s auction still hums in a Pennsylvania machine shop, threading titanium aerospace fittings without a hiccup, its headstock oil as pristine as 1945, after rebuilds costing pennies. Contrast that with the 2022 John Deere tractor fiasco, where software updates bricked $500,000 machines overnight, farmers towing them like dead mules because proprietary code demanded subscriptions. Or the 2021 Florida condo collapse at Surfside, where modern reinforcing bar splices, cheaper couplers over old-school lapped overlaps, failed under corrosion, killing 98 because safety theater regulations favored cost-cutting over mass. Mini-Lathes fare worse. Those Harbor Freight 7 SAGS 14 models warp spindles from plastic gear backlash, ball races pitting after 500 hours, imprinting helical chatter on 0.5 mm pins, unfit for anything but scrap. We abandoned plain bearings for profit, ball bearings cheaper to mass-produce in China, assemblies automated sans skilled laps, obsolescence baked in via sealed cartridges that fail spectacularly, safety regulations bloated designs with sensors that glitch, while shareholders demand quarterly yields over longevity. Planned failure sells upgrades. Why build eternal when plastic husks net recurring revenue? Today, pristine Schaublins fetch $20,000 at heritage auctions, lovingly restored in museums like the Swiss Technical Museum in Winterthur, or still spinning in boutique watch shops crafting Patek Philippe complications. A few grind away in forgotten barns, outlasting their makers. We've traded brute durability for glittering fragility, mistaking speed for strength, and now chase software patches to fix what overthought designs broke. Progress? It's the slow poison of disposability, eroding the very foundations we once forged to endure. As the dust settled on Europe's battlefields in 1945, Switzerland's watchmakers emerged not just intact, but dominant, their Schaublin lathes the unsung engines of a mechanical golden age. While Allied factories retooled for consumer goods amid rationed steel, Jura artisans fired up those indestructible 102s to flood markets with Rolex oyster cases and Omega Seamaster bezels, tolerances holding firm despite belts frayed from years of overload. Global demand surged tenfold. American jewelers clamored for Swiss movements precise enough for aviation clocks, and by 1950, Schaublin exported over 5,000 units stateside, each headstock still gliding on that eternal oil film, churning pinions at 5,000 RPM without a whisper of play. One such lathe, serial number 1024782, crossed the Atlantic in a Liberty shiphold, destined for Belova's Queens plant, where it machined the Accutron tuning fork hearts that revolutionized timekeeping in the jet age. No power failures or material shortages could stop it. Operators simply topped off the oil sump and kept the bronze bushings lapped, turning out millions of parts over 2 decades without rebuild. This post-war dominance exposed the fragility of emerging rivals. Enter the first wave of American precision lathes from Pratt & Whitney, boasting roller bearings touted as superior for high-speed runs. But under sustained 24/7 production for military contracts, those rollers developed flat spots from false Brunelling, where preload squeezed lubricant out, causing skidding and exponential wear. By 1955, entire lines at Hamilton Watch halted as spindles overheated to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, warping housings and scoring shafts beyond salvage. Replacements cost 40% more than a used Schaublin, shipped back from Switzerland overnight. The physics betrayed them. Rollers concentrate Hertzian stresses at point contacts exceeding 500,000 psi, pitting surfaces in months, while Schaublin's distributed hydrostatic pressure never exceeded 50,000 psi across the full journal area. Inertia crushed the illusion too. Lighter P&W spindles, half the mass at 25 pounds, amplified every motor pulse into resonant chatter, ruining 0.3 mm balance wheels unfit for export. Workers in those expanding factories bore the evolution scars deeper still. Post-war labor floods brought green apprentices to Schaublin bays, but the machine's ferocity didn't soften. In La Chaux-de-Fonds établissement horaire, shifts stretched to 16 hours filling back orders, machinists wrestling 800-pound beds across concrete floors with chain hoists groaning under strain. Deafness set in from unrelenting spindle harmonics penetrating eardrums like drill bits, decibel peaks at 110 dB, no earplugs until the 1960s. Silicosis ravaged lungs from grinding swarf clouds, fine steel particles embedding alveoli, forcing retirees to wheeze through oxygen masks by 40. Women entered the trade then, nimble fingers threading 0.mm tools, but paid the price in repetitive strain, compound fractures from jammed cross slides, bones splintering under 2-ton apron forces when overrides failed. A 1952 incident at Universal Genève saw 3 crushed when a headstock seizure hurled a flywheel chunk through a wall. Fatality rate hovered at 1 per 10,000 hours, hushed by booming profits. These cathedrals of craft demanded not just skill, but fortitude forged in fire, their operators evolving into legends whispered in trade pubs. Fast forward to the 1970s quartz revolution, and the Schaublin supremacy turned prophetic. As Seiko's battery-driven crystals gutted Swiss employment by 60%, those old irons stood sentinel in surviving ateliers, unmoved by fashion's whims. Longines and Zenith clung to mechanicals, their 70 series lathes producing escapements round to 5 microns, while Japanese automatics sputtered on throwaway spindles. Yet betrayal brewed in boardrooms. Timex lobbied for progress, pushing cartridge bearings for disposable watches, cheap at $2 per assembly, but failing after 18 months from grease starvation, contaminants turning rollers to gravel. By 1983, the quartz quake idled 50,000 Jura jobs, but Schaublins migrated underground, smuggled to black market shops in Hong Kong, where counterfeit Rolex factories abused them for decades, oil films enduring adulterated lubricants that would seize modern anti-friction packs instantly. Modern echoes mock the era's grit. Recall the 2018 Haas CNC meltdown in a California prototype shop, a $120,000 DM2 desktop miller, ball-bearing heartbreaking mid-job from firmware optimization, linear guides corroding in coastal humidity because sealed units trapped moisture, costing $15,000 in downtime. Or Tornos's own 2015 slide lathe recall, Swiss-made, ironically, where hybrid ceramic bearings shattered under thermal shock, fragments scoring slides and halting micro-drill production for luxury brands. Plastic composites amplify the doom. Gearbox teeth in benchtop CNCs shear at 10 nm torque, backlash blooming to 0.01 inches, while Schaublin's cast iron ways, stress relieved at 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, deflect less than 0.005 inches under full cut. Profit priests decreed it. Finite element analysis optimized away safety factors from 10.1 to 1.51. Sensors adding failure points, vibration monitors false tripping on harmless resonances, demanding $5,000 annual calibrations. Regulations mandating interlocks bloated footprints, but skipped root causes like Brunelling. Shareholders feast on $290 mini CNC kits from AliExpress. Bushings of sintered bronze powder collapsing after 200 hours, peddled with hype videos masking the rumble. In hidden enclaves today, a Schaublin 102 endures at Roger W. Smith's English workshop, birthing bespoke tourbillons, where the headstock's whisper yields hairsprings true to atomic clocks. Another powers FP. Jern's complications in Geneva, its bronze untouched since Kennedy's moonshot era. We've squandered the formula for quarterly spreadsheets, erecting temples to ephemera that crumble under their own cleverness. Those cartridge-bearing pretenders proliferated through the 1990s, infiltrating even aerospace subcontractors chasing Pentagon contracts for F-22 altimeters. A Schaublin 70, shipped to Lockheed's Burbank Skunk Works in 1947, outlasted 3 generations of Myford and South Bend rivals, its oil wedge churning ruby jewel pivots at 4,000 RPM, while maintenance-free angular contacts in the Brits seized from synthetic grease hardening in desert trials, stranding test flights over Edwards Air Force Base. By 2001, when the Space Shuttle program's solid rocket boosters demanded micron-true nozzles, veterans dusted off Schaublins mothballed since Apollo, their inertia quelling turbine imbalances that fragmented ceramic hybrids in experimental Pratt setups, point loads spiking to 800,000 psi, flaking debris into fuel paths. The human element shifted too, but the toll mirrored the past in new guises. Contemporary restorers, hobbyists turned prophets in garages from Ohio to Osaka, confront the beasts without the tribal knowledge. A 62-year-old retiree in Sheffield, England, lost 2 fingers last year feeding a seized chuck on his grandfather's 102. The 60-pound spindle's momentum unyielding despite retrofit e-stops that fritzed in oily atmospheres. In Shenzhen, knockoff factories, migrant workers, barely 20. Hunch over abused Schaublins imported via gray markets. Lungs blackening from coolant vapors sans extractors. Spines curving permanently from wrestling 300-kilo tailstocks without ergonomic hoists. No unions here. Quotas from Dubai sheikhs Patek fakes drive 18-hour marathons. Hernias and neuropathies the silent epidemics. These machines still cull the weak, indifferent to OSHA placards or LED floodlights, demanding the same iron wills that propelled post-war booms. Contrast that resilience with the 2023 Boeing 737 MAX sensor debacle, where redundant flight computers, ball-bearing gyros and IMU clusters, glitched from thermal expansion mismatches, dooming 2 jets and 346 souls because firmware couldn't compensate for 2-micron eccentricities in cheap Asian races. Or the 2019 Volkswagen emission scandal's aftermath, diesel particulate filters in 11 million cars clogged from turbo shafts wobbling on polymer-lubricated thrust pads, nitrogen oxide spewing unchecked as plastic cages melted at 250 degrees Celsius. Mini-Lathes compound the comedy. Grizzly's G0709, with its precision preloads, imprints lobed errors on 2mm arbors after 1,000 hours, the thin oil baths evaporating to expose sintered horrors, unfit for hobby gears, let alone heirlooms. Why the retreat? Corporate alchemy transmuted castings into magnesium alloys for weight savings, halving thermal capacity and amplifying chatter tenfold. Finite schedules slashed over design. A 1940s Schaublin's 12.1 safety margin on journals became 2.1 optimized voids, begging failure. Algorithms dictate now. CAD simulations blind to hydrodynamic nuances, spitting designs that buckle under real shear. Even high-end pretenders falter. Watch brands like Tag Heuer tut in-house CNCs with air bearings, but a 2024 Chrono 24 exposé revealed 15% rejection rates on balance staffs from sub-20-micron ripple, the gas films collapsing under interrupted cuts that oil wedges simply absorb. Tissot's automated lines, emulating Swiss roots, grind to halts from encoder slippage on linear rails pitted by swarf ingress, downtime eclipsing a Schaublin's annual wick change. Profit margins rule. A disposable headstock cartridge at $200 versus $2,000 for bronze lappers means recurring sales, not legacies. Green mandates accelerate the rot. Low VOC lubricants gum in plain journals if skimped. But ball races demand exotic synthetics that volatilize, mandating $10,000 yearly purges. Yet in the shadows, these titans persist, unbowed. Serial 7030124 resides at the Time Zone Watch Museum in Florida, its bed rails gleaming from volunteer laps, spinning demo jewels for awestruck visitors who marvel at runouts defying laser interferometers. In Bovet's Swiss enclave, a fleet of 102's crafts chronograph wheels for $250,000 masterpieces. Operators, descendants of Henri Dubois, topping sumps with custom 80W90 blends distilled from 1940s recipes. Across the Pacific, a rusting 70N variant powers micro-drill bits in a Kyoto Independence shed, outproducing neighbors' FANUC pods that overheat on gold alloys. Auctions surge. A 1942 102N fetched $2,800 at Christie's Geneva last fall, buyers' engineers fleeing big tech silicon mirages. Their endurance indicts our epic. We chase the electrons' flicker, forsaking the spindle's silent might, and now inhabit a world of flickering dashboards and e-waste mountains. True progress isn't velocity or pixels. It's the quiet defiance of steel against entropy, a testament that some engineering truths, like gravity, brook no obsolescence. In discarding them, we don't advance. We merely hasten the rust.